Today is Hamilton County Clerk Bill Knowles' greatest day of trial, the start of trials perhaps. It depends whether he is a man of character and integrity who will mind the oath he made to uphold the Tennessee Constitution. It will be a lot easier for him if he just goes along, plays along with the majority opinion in the case commonly called Obergefell versus Hodges, but which is also fair here in Tennessee to call Tanko versus Haslam. That is the Tennessee case, which was up on appeal, and the U.S. Supreme Court has decided in favor of what it calls gay rights and says that such rights are constitutional, and that the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, which was passed over by some of the states in the time just after the war to prevent Southern independence, that constitutional provision requires a nationalization of what is a state matter. Then that is marriage. Marriage has always been a state matter, and if you are one interested in the free market and in local economy, you probably want to ask yourself, well, why is it even a state matter? But it is in every state. There are definitions in statute in every state in the union, and that is because state corporations, state governments have the idea that they have an interest, and not a legal interest, as well as a cultural and social interest in marriage. And so most people in the United States marry under statute. They marry by permission, if you will. Only a few Americans exercise the right to marry, and they exercise what's called a common law right to marry, and they marry at common law. And the type of marriage at issue here is not common law marriage, which can be only between one man and one woman, but statutory marriage. The marriages under statute, marriages that are created effectively by state governments in their statutes, and even some of them in their constitutional amendments in the past few years that were raised to defend marriage, the very concept of marriage, raised to defend the idea that marriage is between one man and one woman only, not multiple partners, not polygamy, but one man and one woman. Certainly not two women or two men; those being excluded from recognition of the high estate of matrimony. So the decision, Tanko versus Haslam, as I'll call it, it says that that Tennessee's Marriage Protection Amendment, which was voted in by the people in 2006, is a nullity. That's what we're all led to believe is the case, and that is what even the majority, well, even the dissenters somehow agree. They agree with the majority that this ruling, which comes in at 108 pages, is in fact a law, as if it were something that had passed the Congress or a General Assembly. And of course, everyone thinks this way because there is this unbreakable guild, this very powerful guild called the lawyer class. And by their ministrations over decades, we understand that high court rulings aren't just controlling on them and their laws and their arguments over laws, but culture as a whole, that a high court opinion is effectively law. And the stories you'll read about this today and tomorrow in the press will universally tell you that this ruling, this opinion, overturns and renders null and void and pointless all definitions in all the states, including Tennessee, with our Marriage Protection Amendment and the statutes that flow from that. Making this opinion makes all these laws passed by the people and or their representatives nothing. They're vacated, as the word is. The word is that the ruling vacates these protections of marriage, which are part of Christian civilization, which are historic to humankind from the beginning of mankind about 8,000 years ago. Our first parents, Adam and Eve, were married, and all their children, as time went on, all their children, and then married, and as the population grew across the globe, There were, of course, came in with the effect of the fall on mankind. There came in rules that prohibited marriage among close kin, and you had to be some lines removed before you could marry a member of the opposite sex. We have historical understanding of marriage, and in fact, 3 years ago, President Obama was pretty sure that marriage was right, and that so-called gay marriage, gay unions, were not right and should not be recognized. And mankind as a whole, we could say, Western civilization, only in the past 20 years, with intense and very intelligent lobbying by the gay activist crowd, has been. What was I saying? The gay crowd, the gay activists, the Human Rights Campaign, and many others have had an assiduous and careful rebuilding of the ideas of marriage and changing the culture through media and good arguments, taking, for example, the sex out of homosexuality. There is no more sex in homosexuality as it's referred to in public. It is something that's simply not there. And gays just represent a social interest now, and have won. They have won the day and won the battle. There is, of course, dissent on the court, and the local economy argument you will find there in the last half of all that type that came off of your printer. If you're going to print out this decision, the last half is made up of the dissent, and there are reasons to understand the great danger to the people of this country, who at one time said that there cannot be taxation without representation, and yet now we have a social transformation, as one dissenter said, without representation. We have what is going to be understood as a new paradigm in the United States, among all of its peoples, in all the states, in every state, in every county, in every city, in every small village, in every suburb. There we are to understand a new concept, a new conception that legitimates sodomy as a right, and one that if the people engaging in that are affectionate and have a sense of permanence, that they now can have a right to marriage, and that the state, which has created the statutory regimes of marriage, has no choice but to call Jim and Joe married. Just as you, my listener, are married, you have a family, and your union is lawful. It's before God, very likely, even though you are not a Christian. It was done before God. And that union, which is unique, which is of two people of the opposite sex who have between you complementarity, right? That is no better than two men who are engaged in anal sex and other delights. They, with their affections now, can come to Bill Knowles, our county clerk here in Hamilton County, and say, Mr. Knowles, we are here to be married, and we now have a right to it, and you have no authority to say no. You have no authority to say that you will not do it. After all, we have in fact, we printed it out, and the type from the printer is there, and in fact, the pages are still warm on the inner pages of the printout that we have here. Take a look at it now. Take a look at it. It is still warm because we hastened over here in our car and rushed through the glass doors to ask you about this. And we're here to marry. Jim, my friend, and I, Joe, we're in this case, we're both husbands. Husband and husband are going to marry. We do not make the distinction between wife and husband. We are both men, and we're both husband and husband. And so we say, you have no authority, Bill Knowles, to say no. You cannot say no to us. And so that's why we are at the beginning of this man's tribulations. There are 95 county clerks in our state, in Tennessee, and they all have the same question. And that is, if they ask the county attorney, they will get the standard PAP. And that is that this is now a law. There is no constitution. Now, what happens in the advice of county attorneys to their clerks around the state and to probate judges in Alabama, where there's been a great deal of resistance by the fine people of that state to gay theory. In all these jurisdictions around the country where they're the holdouts, you could say, right? The holdouts. The idea is that you just have to comply. But does Mr. Knowles really have to comply? In all the conversations about this question, I was going to go to say the idea of the oath of office has been minimized. There is no reference to it, and I would like to suggest just here for a moment that the oath of office is the barrier to performance, and that is in this way. When Mr. Knowles takes the oath of office to uphold the Tennessee Marriage Amendment and all the other parts of the law, it's done before God, and in God's providence, he is a Christian man. He's a practicing believer, has a great deal of interest in Christianity, and has a good heart to God. But now, though, he's being told that he has to do something which violates his conscience, and he doesn't want to do it. Now, he has personal reasons because he favors marriage in his heart of hearts and knows that that's a godly thing, and that a man who finds a wife finds a good thing. He knows that, and he thinks somehow that that's really not enough upon which to stand in resistance. Is there more? Well, there is more, and that would be the oath of office, in which he swore before God to uphold the Constitution against all threat, against all naysayers. Why are oaths taken to begin with? Well, because at some point the office holder may be tempted to disobey the Constitution. He may be tempted to say, well, I'm just going to let that part go right now because I have an urgent necessity, right? An urgent necessity that is presenting itself upon me, and I'm going to yield on this point because of necessity, right? That's always what the tyrant offers. The necessity defense. I have necessity to tyrannize over the people, to open concentration camps, to spy on them, and to imprison dissenters and so on. It's always necessity. The oath prevents that from happening. The oath, as it's intended, it brings God in as a witness that you will uphold under threat, under duress, in controversy, in argument, in times of tribulation. You will say, I'm standing here, I'm standing my ground. And those are legal reasons, right? And there are a couple other ones just in the way of footnotes. Number one is the perjury statute. Mr. Knowles, if he grants Jim and Joe union to marry, he is committing perjury because he knows that as a fact, two men cannot marry. That's a fact. Now, it could be just policy, in which case, if he thinks it's just policy, that he maybe could yield. But if he thinks it's a fact, then he cannot yield. Otherwise, he would offend the perjury statute, which says you cannot affirm anything as a fact that you know is not. If it's not a fact, you cannot affirm it as one. And that's what Bill Knowles can say by way of a negative, right? The negative is, I don't want to commit perjury, therefore I'm going to say no to Jim and Joe. The other is the oath itself and the Constitution. That does the neutron bomb theory of law hold? Does it work? Does it really work as we are told by the Associated Press and by the lawyers that a string of words by the High Court, 100 pages long, is enough to absolve the oath of office? Does it free Bill Knowles from his obligation to support the Constitution in its every point, in its each particular? Well, the decision is a great upset against the idea of local economy, really against the idea of capital, because capital comes from marriage. Capitalism is based on prosperity, the future. The idea that we accumulate wealth comes in the end from character. It comes from character, and it is character is what a man who's married gains, right? You gain character by being married and going through the tribulations of being married and being a father, having your own children. That is what marriage brings. It brings distress and a call for, you always have to call for God's help in marriage, and it brings you occasions for God's grace. That's marriage is where a man learns to be a man, right? Not just sexually, but in terms of taking responsibility, looking out for others, laying aside his passions and desires and his longings and his peeves even, and saying, well, I'm the head of the household and I'm going to govern this family and provide for my wife and children. Marriage is where capitalism starts in marriage. Look at all the fine businesses in Chattanooga. They all start with families. They have family at the basis, and then the business grows into a corporation, and finally there's a board of directors, and at some point the founder's son is thrown out, right, because he disagrees with the board, and so operations get big, but prosperity comes in family. Family is where it comes, and also in the other great matter of fidelity. Family, in family, to marriage, to the marriage vow. Infidelity, there is the greatest form of prosperity that a man can have. In your faithfulness to your wife, you are a rich man. You have confidence. You can go forward. Your most intimate friend and your partner, your wife, she's behind you. And because she's behind you, you, my listener, you succeed because of your wife. And you need to thank her for that, and you need to praise her for that. The ruling Tanko v. Haslam, or Obergefell versus Hodges, as it's called, is, I guess it's the case, is Bill Knowles' greatest trial, and it will be for some time the greatest trial for Christianity, because Christianity is directly opposed to the theory of the majority in Washington. But the majority acted in haste. There is an urgency as in two men in their bedroom, there is an urgency, right? And the majority, in its excitement, is unwilling to wait. It's unwilling to wait for the slow processes of democratic, you might say, democratic popular vote, of changing people's opinions by reports, by personal examination, by studies, by arguments. These things are all too slow. Individuals who are harmed need not wait legislative action before asserting a fundamental right. And the 14th Amendment, we are told, requires states to recognize same-sex marriages validly performed out of state, since same-sex couples may now exercise the fundamental right to marry in all states. There is no lawful basis for a state to refuse to recognize a lawful same-sex marriage performed in another state on the ground of its same-sex character. Well, the dissenters are right. The dissenters have they are at the end of the opinion, right? They're being dragged along in the dust of the victors in this legal battle, and that gives them, though, the final word. And I think the great insight of the marketplace of constitutional government is had on their account, even though they make a fundamental mistake. And I hope you, my listener, won't make that mistake. And the error is, you might say it's a kind of a very slight error, but I detected it. I detected it in the dissent of Justice Scalia, and it's this. You have, my listener, you have enumerated rights that are described in the amendments to the federal Constitution. But do you know that you have hundreds of rights that are not enumerated? In fact, there are so many of them, they can't be possibly enumerated. And in fact, their protection is covered by the 10th Amendment, which says that rights not enumerated here are protected and reserved to the people and the states. And so the fault that I see in Scalia is that he says that this right had to be named before it could be claimed. Well, I think he's got everything upside down, and that is that somehow gay rights had to be found before they could be exercised. Well, if gay rights really were a right, you'd have it without a judge having to say anything about it. You see what I'm saying? Judges don't create rights. They don't recognize rights. Rights are there. They pre-exist the state. They pre-exist the Supreme Court. They pre-exist a legislature. You, my listener, have more rights than you know. Now, gay rights are not a right. They are not a right. They are, we should understand gay rights to be an imposition of an ideology through law. In fact, the ruling in Tanko versus Haslam is a form of official revolution, a revolution against the form of federalism, against the form of the states, and the form really of constitutional government. Can we be a free people under Tennessee law with gay rights? No. And we'll have to see exactly how that works. The other fault that I think I alluded to a moment ago is the idea that this opinion is a law, and that it binds everyone. Well, no, it doesn't bind anyone. Why is that? Because Bill Knowles has a duty, and so does the clerk in your county. If you are just passing through here, Chattanooga, and tuning in to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, the clerk in your county has as much a duty to obey the Constitution and uphold it as the judges do, the 9 men and the majority of 5 have to interpret it, right? They are bound to uphold the Constitution too, which they're not doing in this case. That clerk, Bill Knowles, has a duty no less momentous, no less vigorous, no less important than they. Will office holders in Tennessee stand their ground? What about in Alabama? Or will they yield? Will they yield to the cavillings, to the ideals, if you will, that are made in this paper that closes off debate. There is not to be any more debate. Things are fixed, and now the culture war. This is David Toulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Right now, you can save half off at hotnewstalkradio.com. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click half off for exceptional deals on new and pre-owned unique quality items. For Hamilton County residents only. Save half off at Jet's Pizza, golf clubs, coffee, tea, a real sword, jewelry, and much more. It's half off. Go to half off at hotnewstalkradio.com right now, then click on half off to save big. Be sure to join us live Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays at 11 a.m. as we bring you lots of fantastic deals right here, AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. hotnewstalkradio.com and half off. Surf our site and ride the wave of savings. We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia spreads a rich selection, loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas, every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
Hi, this is your computer speaking. I don't feel so well. It's like I've come down with a bug, and I'm getting slower.
Affordable Computers. We fix sick computers. Your hometown guys at Affordable Computers will repair your PC in half the time of the big boys at an affordable price. No tricks, no gimmicks, no computer speak technobabble. Just good, quick, and courteous affordable service and repairs. Want to affordably supercharge your PC? Affordable Computers on Highway 58. Affordable Computers hand builds all desktops in-house. If you're looking for a better-than-new refurb laptop, $150 will get you a Dell or another name brand at Affordable Computers. Affordable Computers, Highway 58, between Arby's and Taco Bell. Also Fort O, Battlefield Parkway, near Holcomb's. Affordable Computers, we service what we sell. Call 499-1975. That's 499-1975.
Wow, this is amazing. I'm feeling great. Supercharged.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The Supreme Court rules that same-sex couples have the right to marry in any U.S. state.
In doing so, they've reaffirmed that all Americans are entitled to the equal protection of the law.
President Obama hailing the 5-4 ruling, which means that the 14 states which haven't allowed same-sex marriage will have to stop enforcing their bans. Some Republicans are not cheering the news.
Former Governor Mike Huckabee of Arkansas, a 2016 Republican candidate, just put out a statement that says he will not acquiesce to the United States Supreme Court.
Fox Radio's Jared Halpern. France raising its security alert to the highest level in the southeastern region where a gas factory was attacked. One person found beheaded. And a massive wildfire in Southern California threatening thousands of homes and other buildings in the San Bernardino Mountains, just one of several wildfires in western states. Fox News, we report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
This is David Toulis. Our show is Nooganomics.com. We cover local economy and the free market. We are AM 1240, 910, and what am I saying? We're AM 1240, and we are Hot News Talk Radio online. It's hotnewstalkradio.com, and on your smartphone, if you have the TuneIn Radio app, you can hear us. You can see whether my bow tie fits and tell if my shirt is well ironed or wrinkled. Today, it is the latter. We cover local economy and the free market. Our theme is loving your neighbor and buying local. And we have the argument that near is better than far, that small is better than big, that simple is better than complex, and that personal is better than corporate. This is now in the footnotes, and physical than abstract. We are asking about this day. It seems to be the biggest day of trial for Bill Knowles, our county clerk. And I have on the phone with me Don O'Connor, who is a longtime pro-life activist here in Chattanooga and has of late, in the past year or so, been publishing on behalf of marriage. Don, welcome to Nooganomics.com.
Well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, tell us what Tanko versus Haslam, it's also called Obergfell versus Hodges. What does this decision say to my listener? What does it mean for him?
Well, there's two things. First of all, the rule of law is now over. It has been replaced by the rule of judicial religious imposition. And secondly, gay slavery is on its way. Get ready for it. It's going to victimize everybody.
How will gay slavery do that, Don O'Connor?
Okay, well, suppose that gay people are getting married and they want to force you to participate in their marriage ceremony. Gay slavery is going to use the government to force you to participate in religious beliefs that you do not agree with.
Well, how is it that the government will be able to impose someone else's rights on you? How can a gay person's rights and the exercise of those rights injure my listener, or let's say a Christian school or a Christian college? How does that work?
Well, if you refuse, if the gay people ask you to do something for them and you refuse, then you will be labeled as a bigot, and they will go to the government and complain that you are treating them unequally because you refuse to participate with them in something that you would participate with in some instance where you agreed with them, with your friends, let's say, and that will be labeled as discrimination, and the government will fine you or imprison you if you do not participate in whatever it is that the gays want you to do.
Well, Don O'Connor, gays make up 1.5% or less of the population. We probably have 20 gays in Chattanooga. Are they known for their grace and generosity to those people with whom they disagree?
Well, it's not most of them that's the problem. It's just the very small percentage who are the activists. And by the way, there's a huge difference between gays and homosexuals. Homosexuals are a very tiny percent of the population, but most gays are bisexuals. And, but again, probably 95, 98% either way, they're nice people. They're not going to try to force you, try to enslave you. But the few that are the activists, they're the ones who are going to try to enslave you.
Right. They act with gays. Activists act with very high principle, very high moral sense, a sense of great self-importance, and they want to correct the world. They want the whole world to look like their view of it, and they're very eager and very glad to use litigation and complaint to make people conform. So you're saying in a nutshell that gay activists and the gay theory is not one of persuasion by argument. It's really persuasion by other means, somewhat perhaps like the mafiosi.
Well, and today we see an excellent example of that, because the decision handed down today, ordered by the U.S. Supreme Court, is not one that follows the rule of law. It totally excludes you and me and everybody, actually, every average citizen, from any active participation in our own governance. It's just simply 5 people on the United States Supreme Court have self-righteously determined that their beliefs are superior and legislation and constitutions are inferior. But yet, because they are supreme, they're the supreme branch of government who has far more authority than either the legislative branch or the administrative branch, executive branch, that they should be allowed to impose their self-righteous beliefs on everybody else.
Well, the majority opinion, Don O'Connor, says that gays have an urgent right under the 14th Amendment. There's an urgency about this development, and we can't leave it to the democratic process to allow gays to win their way into the hearts and minds of people. There has to be a top-down decision. What do you make of that line of observation?
Well, where does that come from? That's nowhere found in the Constitution or in any legislation. That is a purely self-righteous, manufactured by man religious belief. And by the way, the word they use is the word equality, and it's called marriage equality. But in fact, yesterday, before this decision was handed down, every man and woman in Tennessee had an equal right to marry, but that doesn't satisfy the gay marriage activists who believe that their beliefs are superior.
And what's going to have to happen is for people who believe in marriage, they're going to have to go to an alternative, Don O'Connor, and that would be exercising marriage, not the right of marriage, not under statute by obtaining a license at the county courthouse from Bill Knowles, but to marry and to have my listeners' children marry under common law. Common law marriage, by definition, involves one man and one woman. No gay can marry under common law. He has to marry under the authority of a state, which is taking its orders perhaps from somewhere else. But in other words, gays marry under statutory marriage created by the state. A human being like you or your son or my son, those human beings can marry as a matter of common right under common law. So is that not something that my listeners should be aware of?
Well, I wouldn't quite go as far as what you're actually saying, but I would say this. There's absolutely no questions that the desire is to make Christians second-class citizens and to force Christians to drop out of the normal legal procedures. Again, what this decision is saying is that the gay religious beliefs are superior, your religious beliefs and my religious beliefs are inferior, and therefore the gay beliefs are legally supposed to be able to control everybody's religious beliefs, whether we agree with them or not.
So that would be, for example, a daycare center can't get any kind of license under state law through the federal theory if that daycare center is from a Christian church, or a college with a Christian orientation, or maybe a Hindu orientation, or maybe even a Muslim one, can't get any kind of recognition, licensure, or certification in state or other jurisdictions because it holds to a marriage view. In other words, a real marriage view.
Now that's a possibility. It's quite possible, and of course we see that in the health care. The Affordable Care Act tells religious groups such as Catholic hospitals that Catholic hospitals will not be reimbursed by the Affordable Care Act unless those Catholic hospitals do abortions and provide abortion drugs, which is totally contrary to Catholic belief.
Right. That's
in other words, they want the Catholic hospitals to close so that from now on all hospitals will be government hospitals where anything goes.
Well, Don O'Connor, thanks for joining my listener and me here at Nuganomics.com.
You're welcome.
We've been hearing Don O'Connor, who is a longtime activist, pro-life activist here in Chattanooga, and in recent months has taken up publishing by online defenses of marriage, and he's carried some of my work at Nuganomics.com. My name is David Toulis, and I'm the editor of the website for the man who matters, and that is Nuganomics.com, where we defend family and capital. We are the website that doesn't hold back on the punches. And you are listening here to me at our show is Nuganomics.com every weekday from 1 to 3 o'clock. The number 4 show here at AM 1240. The number 1 show is that of the kid Russell, the uber libertarian, free market oriented young man who's never set foot in a classroom and yet has a riveting analysis every day of surveillance and the online world and various parts of capitalism. The number 2 show very likely is that of Sean Hannity, the great neocon, who is every afternoon from 3 to 5 or 6 or so, and we're the only local station that has a drive home show, an hour-long news show with Russell, our news director, and after that, the number 3 show, which has a brief hiatus this week, that of Tex, and his show is Cowboy Up with Tex. We are the local economy station. We would suggest that you love your neighbor and buy local. Think of the great reasoning of the court's decision today, giving what we say are constitutional rights, creating a constitutional right, which of course is completely backwards. Constitutional rights pre-exist the state, and they pre-exist the federal government. But there's a manufactured right, a special favor, if you will. It's not really a right. It is a kind of favor, an obeisance, if you will, a bowing down to a representation, a theory, an ideology, and that is that gay marriage is the true marriage, and men and women who marry, well, they're just using the old form, right, the legacy form of marriage. But we have a new one now that it effectively has deconstructed marriage legally and is prohibited there to be any special favor to marriage, special favor which it deserves, right? Marriage is the cradle. Marriage is where you find the cradle. And what's in the cradle? Well, infants are. And legitimacy is there. Prosperity is there. Growth of population is there in family. And family is, I dare say, family is only two people of the opposite sex who who enjoy physical complementarity, right? Their bodily organs complement each other, right? Neither it's a situation where it's not two men or two women. You have parts that work together in harmony and delight to create family and a lifelong bond in marriage. Gay theory overturns that, and the court, the majority opinion, did not have time for debate, and the dissents are, we could say, favoring constitutional government and local economy, and the whole idea of capital. There has been a loss of faith. There is going to be a long-term loss of faith, according to the head judge, Judge Roberts. He says respect of the people for courts flows from the perception and the reality that we exercise humility and restraint in deciding cases according to the Constitution and law. The role of the court envisioned by the majority today, however, is anything but humble or restrained. Over and over, the majority exalts the role of the judiciary in delivering social change. And one other important phrase in that line is that just as the colonists resented taxation without representation, you, my listener, rightly resent that we're having social transformation without representation, because what is being done is a form of social engineering by the elite, the 5 attorneys who have a lifelong sinecure to be judges. Continuing debate on the marriage question is being rejected by the High Court. Nowhere in the majority's extravagant conception of judicial supremacy is more evident than its description and dismissal of the public debate regarding same-sex marriage, according to Roberts. He says there has been, the majority admits that there are hundreds of years or thousands of years in the history of marriage, but on the other side, there has been, he's quoting Roberts, extensive litigation, many thoughtful district court decisions, countless studies, papers, books, and other popular and scholarly writing, and more than 100 amicus briefs in these cases alone. What would be the point of allowing the democratic process to go on? It is high time for the court to decide the meaning of marriage based on 5 lawyers' quote, better informed understanding of, quote, a liberty that remains urgent in our own era. The answer is surely there in one of those amicus briefs or studies. There is a great deal of anger and bitterness in these conservative judges, all of whom are Roman Catholic. They're all Roman Catholic. And even the Roman Catholic theory of law is natural law, right? It's quite different from the Protestant and Reformed view of law, which holds to the sovereignty of God and the validity, the binding validity of God's commands. Even the Old Testament law, all those statutes and rules of equity that passed from the Old Covenant into the New. The ascension of Christ, of course, ended a few years later, ended the nation, the kingdom of the children of Israel, and so with those. With the expiration of that people, the Israelites, also expired all the religious and purely ceremonial rites of the worship of God. And the marriage is an ancient institution, and the court's accumulation of power, Roberts goes on to say, does not occur in a vacuum. It comes at the expense of the people. That is to say, you, my listener. And they know it. Here and abroad, people are in the midst of a serious and thoughtful public debate on the issue of same-sex marriage. And he points out that that debate is being cut off, and that closing debate tends to close minds. So now that we have a decision, who's going to agree with a gay activist who's trying to win a liberal Protestant or maybe a member of the Southern Baptist Church, a Southern Baptist Convention church, to his view, right? Now that there's a rule, or a law, as it's called, why do we have to have further debate? Heavy-handed judicial intervention was difficult to justify and appears to have provoked, not resolved, conflict. And that is what Don O'Connor, the man with whom I spoke a moment ago, is saying. There's going to be much conflict, much agony. And gays, we can even say, in agreement with another point of the dissenters, is that gays have now lost the debate. They've won the court battle, but the debate is over. And what they have lost, and lost forever, is the opportunity to win the true acceptance that comes from persuading their fellow citizens of the justice of their cause. And they lose this just when the winds of change were freshening at their backs, Robert says. So in other words, in fact, there was a poll that came out yesterday that said most people approve of gay marriage. Well, now that why have a court case? Why have a monumental decision from a federal court, which is a blunt instrument? Why cut short debate when there can be a gaining of the public acceptance? So now there is going to be bitterness, there's going to be anger, there's going to be litigation, there are going to be hot words. And think here in the South, where there are many ordinary people. Maybe you're not one of them, you, my listener, maybe you're not one of them, but think of the people you know who are starting to have enough with the attack on the Southern symbol, the ideas of the agrarian South, the independent South, humiliated by the Yankees in 1865. And now this, is there some confluence of these two great negative trends against the South, against local economy? And I would like to suggest, even against you, my listener, I would like to suggest that you, my listener, are being made much poorer on account of this decision. You are losing out. Your vote in 2006 for marriage in Tennessee has been deleted, as we are led to believe. And that, of course, that's what we're supposed to believe. But do we want Bill Knowles, our county clerk, a man of Christian conviction, to think that? No, we don't. We want him to think that, well, hold on. This Constitution is still there. And I'm going to go check my book. I'm going to go check my Tennessee Code Annotated right now, Volume 1. It's still there. And, well, I took an oath to uphold those titles, every one of them on that row of shelves in front of me. And, you know, I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm not going to go ahead of the people of Tennessee until the legislature gives me permission. I'm going to uphold the Tennessee Constitution. Many good and decent people oppose same-sex marriage as a tenet of faith, and their freedom to exercise religion is unlike the right imagined by the majority actually spelled out in the Constitution. And yet these people are the ones who are going to be oppressed. They're going to be oppressed. It is a promise that the gay lobby, and even the majority in its earlier case in 2013, promised that there's going to be harassment. These are all bigots. You, my listener, according to the federal regime, are a bigot. You are a bigot. You're hostile. You're a homophobe. You're narrow-minded. You need to be crushed. In fact, the idea of crushing the South occurred to the Unitarians back in the 1840s and the 1850s. They'd had enough resistance to internal improvements, and so the South had to go. The South had to be destroyed. Hard questions arise, Judge Robert says, when people of faith exercise religion in ways that may seem to be in conflict with the new right to same-sex marriage. When, for example, a religious college provides married student housing only to opposite-sex married couples, or a religious adoption agency declines to place children with same-sex married couples. Indeed, he says, the Solicitor General candidly acknowledged in oral arguments that the tax exemptions of some religious institutions would be in question if they opposed same-sex marriage. And citation to the transcript. There is little doubt that these and similar questions will soon be before this court. Unfortunately, people of faith can take no comfort in the treatment they receive from the majority today. And that is the promise for you. That is the promise here in Chattanooga. There's going to be much anger, much bitterness. And if God doesn't give his grace to people who are among the oppressed class, there are going to be outbursts that are going to be tempestuous. There are going to be people who are going to be hurt, not just in their reputations, not just in their purses or in the loss of their business. They're going to be hurt. And that's what we have to ask God's grace for. And I know you, my listener, you're not a Christian, but there are Christian people who understand this, and they need to understand that in a way, Christendom deserves what has happened today, and there are reasons for that and explanations for that. I hope you stay tuned here. My show here is Nuganomics.com at AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Hot News Talk Radio. Sean Hannity made the switch. You have a friend. You, my listener, have a friend who needs to make the switch to our station. Tell people about our station and say a nice thing about me, the host here, David Toulis, at Hot News Talk Radio, Nuganomics.com. Well, we're going to talk with an entrepreneur, a businesswoman who's got a great thing going in Ottawa. It is a hospital for animals.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Are you calling me Yeller? Them's is fighting words.
Being called yellow, not a compliment. Yellow, the international symbol for caution. Yellow. You certainly wouldn't want to eat yellow snow. Yuck. We typically avoid yellow. So why would you put your hard-earned money into an outdated, expensive, slower yellow page? Or even trust their advice? Especially when your hard-earned advertising dollars could go much further, earning you greater profits, using the multifaceted resources and expertise of Chattanooga Web Services. You want real results for your advertising dollars. The local Chattanooga media experts, Chattanooga Web Services, will help your business grow, utilizing diversified media resources that's affordable to you, whether it involves the internet's World Wide Web, video, audio, or modern-day print. So don't get sucked into the yellow folks trying to upsell you into spending even more money as it ventures into a territory unfamiliar to them, the internet. Call Chattanooga Web Services, 424-3373. That's 424-3373. Or go to ChattanoogaWebServices.com, ChattanoogaWebServices.com.
Don't worry, just relax. You need a car. Come to AutoMax.
My wife and I keep the cost down. We sell a quality vehicle at a great price. Our overhead is low. I have no employees, so I can keep my costs down. In turn, the consumer gets a better price. Everything that I sell is emission ready. We really try to go the extra mile for our customer. I don't have to pay an employee commission. I don't have to pay somebody to come out here and wash my cars. I do it all from buying to selling from A to Z. I don't have the overhead where I have to raise the price on my vehicle to cover costs. Here at AutoMax, you're going to guarantee that you get credit. As long as you're making those payments, you're going to build on your credit. Unlike the buy here, pay here's where they don't report to credit bureaus, we report to all 3 credit bureaus. The subprime lenders that we deal with, you don't have to have any credit, or you can have bad credit. You can even have a bankruptcy, a repossession.
Don't worry, just relax. You need a car. Come to AutoMax.
AutoMax, across from Central High on Highway 58 in Harrison. AutoMax, 643-2886. That's 643-2886. Go to AutoMaxChat.com. That's AutoMaxChat.com.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Surgery does not have to be financially painful. Hi, I'm Surgical Dr. David Redd, and I'd like to invite you to my walk-in surgery clinic in North Shore. Quick Surge brings you immediate relief from moles, skin tags, maybe a laceration. Quick Surge. You walk in, fill out a mini form, I numb the area I'll treat, and before you know it, you're on your way home. Do I take insurance? No, because I take cash customers. I have super low and fixed prices, credit card, check, or cash. Uninsured, member of the working financially disadvantaged, choose Quick Surge. I publish prices online. No murk, just sunshine. Hassle-free, pain-free. Love the idea of a personal relationship with a doctor? Drop in with a nasty cut from work. Quick Surge, I'll take care of you. Quick Surge is a public center on the North Shore. No insurance hassles with Quick Surge. The national medical system is dysfunctional, overpriced, very alienating. I'm part of the solution, and so are you. Come on home. QuickSurge.com. QuickSurg. Relief.
Here you are, working to keep your customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at E.J. Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Soddy Daisy, just north of the Bilo. That's E.J. Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead, 622-3156.
When my brother and I opened our first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300-plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and 1 topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Soddy Daisy, Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Jim Taylor. Cheers and tears outside the United States Supreme Court today. Gay rights supporters celebrating the High Court's decision ruling that same-sex marriage is legal in all states. Wide-ranging partisan reaction to the decision.
Before heading to Charleston and the funeral of the Reverend Clemente Pinckney, President Obama hailed the ruling.
This decision affirms what millions of Americans already believe in their hearts. When all Americans are treated as equal, we are all more free.
Social conservatives reacted to the ruling with fury. In a statement, Mike Huckabee called the court's decision an out-of-control act of unconstitutional judicial tyranny, to which he says he would not acquiesce if elected president. Stephen Portnoy, CBS News, Washington.
Leading the way in the 5-4 ruling, conservative Justice Anthony Kennedy, CBS News legal analyst Andrew Cohen.
The road to this ruling was paved decades ago when Justice Kennedy first wrote a decision identifying discrimination against gays and lesbians in a Colorado case. He followed that up with the federal gay marriage case a few years ago, and now this. So no one can be surprised by how this justice, this conservative justice, this Reagan appointee came down on this issue. He has been a hero to gays and lesbians for decades and a villain to others.
Marriage licenses already being issued in Georgia and other states that banned same-sex marriage. The Mississippi Attorney General says gay marriages cannot immediately take place there. In San Francisco, we're live with CBS's Steve Futterman.
And Jim, this city's large gay and lesbian population is celebrating today. In the past hour, a rally in front of City Hall, one of those speaking, the former mayor Gavin Newsom.
Don't ever despair. Don't ever give up. Don't ever believe a challenge is too big.
In 2004, Newsom decided on his own to have the city issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples. Many say that was the start of the battle that ended today. Live in San Francisco, Steve Futterman, CBS News.
Pastor and State Senator Clemente Pinckney, one of 9 gunned down in his Charleston, South Carolina church. A funeral today. CBS's Peter King.
Clemente Pinckney's own church isn't nearly big enough to hold the 5,400 people inside the TD Arena. Hundreds more were turned away after waiting in line for hours. Among the speakers, fellow State Senator Gerald Malloy, who says Pinckney's death needs to lead to reconciliation.
Do not let race, religion, or politics close the doors to dialogue that Senator Pinckney opened to help make us a better people. And do not close the doors to the word that Clem insisted we hear, to love each other and to care for the least of these.
Peter King, CBS News, Charleston.
At least 37 people killed at a resort in Tunisia. Gunmen opening fire on a beach near 2 hotels in the coastal resort city of Sousse. Most of those victims tourists. A couple of hours of trading remain on Wall Street. The Dow right now up 48 points. The NASDAQ down 36 and the S&P 500 down a couple. You're listening to CBS Radio News, honored with the Edward R. Murrow Award for Best Newscast for the 3rd year in a row. This is CBS News.
What puts you at risk for identity theft? Do you bank online or go to the doctor? Banks and health insurers can be susceptible to breaches of your private information. Ever give out your social security number or date of birth? Hackers can use it to get loans or drain accounts. That's why you need LifeLock Ultimate Plus identity theft protection. LifeLock Ultimate Plus helps protect your social security number, bank and retirement accounts, even the equity in your home. Obviously, no one can prevent all identity theft or monitor transactions at every business. But you only have one identity. Protect it with the best. Join LifeLock right now, and you'll get a special 15% discount. Just call or visit LifeLock.com and use promo code 15 today. That's 15 today to take advantage of an incredible 15% discount. Act now. This offer ends June 30th. Call 800-638-9137. 800-638-9137. 800-638-9137.
Controversial FIFA president Sepp Blatter is not staying on.
World Soccer's governing body FIFA confirms Sepp Blatter will not backtrack on his plans to vacate the presidency by the end of the year, despite reports he's changed his mind. While Blatter hasn't been charged in FIFA's corruption scandal, the U.S. says he is a target of its investigation. One of Blatter's colleagues, arrested on a U.S. extradition warrant, has had his request for bail rejected. The Swiss court says the unidentified suspect is a flight risk, and his advanced age and poor health aren't sufficient reasons to grant bail. Larry Miller, CBS News, London.
Yeah, the last time the United States soccer team played China in the Women's World Cup, the 1999 final at the Rose Bowl, when the Americans won on penalty kicks. The teams meet again this evening in Ottawa. The winner advances to the semifinals against either top-ranked Germany or number 3 France. The United States has a 24-game unbeaten streak against China. I'm Jim Taylor, CBS News.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
This is David Toulis. Our show is Nooganomics.com. We cover local economy and the free market with the whimsical and very weak argument. It's a very weak one. Not very impressive. No 82nd Airborne Division behind it. And that is love your neighbor and buy local, and that we can have a loco-centric perspective. We can be localists. And specifically, if you're passing through Chattanooga and you're on the highway that's been cleared from the disastrous wreck yesterday, and all is clear and you're flying through town, the ideas of localism can apply to you. That nothing that we say is trademarked. It's all free to use. It's all open source. And if you're here, though, you are a Nooga-centrist, or you are trying to become one. That's my ambition, is to become a real Chattanoogan and Nooga-centric. Somehow, vainly thinking that Chattanooga and Hamilton County are the center of the universe, the moral center, perhaps, and certainly culturally and socially. Not that there's not that we're making too much of ourselves or thinking vanity. I suggest that there is a real virtue in that kind of simplicity, because that's what it is. Now, Catherine Prim is a veterinarian who runs Applebrook Animal Hospital in Ottawa, and she has an idea somewhat like that. It's a profitable enterprise that she opened in 1998. Catherine is married. Her husband's name is Shane Gressett, and he's a consultant in the healthcare field. And with us today here in the studio is Catherine and Shane's son, Will, 11. Catherine, I was asking you, and tell my listener how it is that you make yourself distinct from other veterinary practices in the Chattanooga area. How do you stand out? How do you make your customer special?
I think that customer service is really kind of where it's at, making sure that the people and their pets are happy to see us and feel comfortable when they're in our presence.
Well, be specific. How do you do that?
You want me to tell all my tricks?
Yes, at least one of them.
I actually carry dog treats in my pocket, and the regulars all know it, so they rush to me and put their nose in my pocket.
Now, are these dog treats because that's the primary population that you serve, or
yes.
What kind of other animals come
actually,
through?
I just do dogs and cats, but 70% of my client base is dogs.
Well, now tell us, you're a veterinarian and you're pursuing your passion. This is not just a job for you, and I think that's an important question, because my listener somehow in his calling, he finds himself very far from his calling. He has a job; it's not really connected to where his gifts are, even his genius. That I would call that his calling. Somehow there's sort of parallel, but not together. You're doing something together in Applebrook Animal Hospital. You're following your passions and your desires, if you will.
Absolutely. I was about 5 years old when I first realized that I wanted to be a veterinarian, and so Applebrook is kind of my childhood dream, and I love it and I live it, and I really believe in what I do there.
Well, tell us about your girlhood. Were you a farm daughter by any chance?
I actually was kind of a city girl, but in the summer times, I would stay with an aunt that lived on a farm, and she had pigs and cows and horses and everything. My uncle owned a stockyard, so I got to go with him to work and watch the large animal vets in action. It was kind of a farm girl in a capsule for me.
Well, what part of the country was this?
It was in Kentucky.
Well, now, what other experiences did you have, Catherine Prim, as a girl that kind of encouraged your love for animals?
Well, like I said, I always knew I loved this, and this was what I wanted to be. I said it from very young, and so I would read books about animals, books by veterinarians, everything I could get my hands on from a very, very young age. I read. And I have specific favorites that I still recommend for kids today. Things like the Marguerite Henry books about Misty of Chincoteague, the horses that live wild on the islands. Of course, the Black Stallion. And
who's the author of that series?
Of the Marguerite Henry?
The Black Stallion series?
The Black Stallion is Walter Farley. Yes, and C.W.
Great
Anderson,
naturalist.
Yeah, C.W. Anderson wrote the Billy and Blaze series, and we don't talk about that series as much, but it's about a little boy and his horse and all their adventures. And I dearly love that one. I read all the books that he had at that time.
Are you you have a son, Will, age 11. Do you have books at home that you have assigned him perhaps for summer reading in this direction?
He is such an avid reader that he has definitely surpassed my recommendations, and he is now finding his own books that he wants to read. And he's actually reading at a 12.8 reading level. So.
Well, how is it that novels about animals create empathy? How do they develop character as well as love for animals? How is it that stories that my listener perhaps should be obtaining for his children, how do they create what your son will become and what you became as a veterinarian?
Well, animals are pure, and they act out of instinct. They aren't greedy. They don't prioritize money. They just are what they are. And I've always loved that about them. And I think that if you can understand them, it helps you grow as a person and see who you want to be.
But animals in these realistic books have dilemmas too, don't they? Is there not occasion where animals are selfless or?
Absolutely.
Is that true? Animals can be selfless. Animals can think for others as people are supposed to.
Well, as people are supposed to. There are actually true stories of animals that sacrifice themselves for their handler. It's pretty amazing. Animals that have saved families from fire. Cats that have attacked dogs that were harming their child. So it's pretty amazing. I think they're very inspirational.
How many customers do you have at Applebrook Animal Hospital? Sorry.
We have about 3,000 client accounts. I would say maybe more like 1,000 that I see with really, really regularity.
Are these families that have multiple animals and are constantly calling your number?
Some of them have multiple animals. Some only have one special one. But the best part about Applebrook is that we call ourselves your other family doctor. And that's because I get to watch their families. I get to watch their children grow. I get to watch their animals come and sadly go because they don't live as long as us. But I have clients whose daughters are now marrying and having children that used to draw pictures for me. And that's priceless.
If a family with pets, pets are, I was going to say, a valuable tool for families, teaching children how to be responsible, to always remember the animals, always think kindly of the animals and not neglect their water.
Yes, absolutely.
And things like that. So it's part of training for young people. Well, how you mentioned that personal service is one way that you separate yourself from other providers of the same professional services that you offer. What are some other things that you do that are maybe helpful to my listener? My listener is thinking of going into business for himself or has started a small enterprise. How do you use, how do you make yourself useful to a larger group of people than you now have actually as customers? How do you reach out for new families?
Well, I think that the key to success is serving others. I think that's the answer. That's where we find our own personal happiness. So although being a veterinarian is my business, I sort of use that as my gift to reach out and educate people about animals and animal care and things that come across the news that are dangerous to them or their pets. I write a blog. I have a website. I answer emails constantly, phone calls at my office. And I really feel like that's part of my contribution to use my gift.
Well, tell us about some of the items, some of the posts you've had recently on your blog, Catherine Prim.
I write for iHeartDogs.com and iHeartCats.com, and it's a really big national blog. And so I try to find things that people wonder about. One of mine, why does my dog eat grass? Everybody really liked that one. And that was fun to research exactly what science says about why dogs eat grass. I talk about pet food recalls, things that can be dangerous to pets, counterfeit products. Why are black cats unlucky was another one that everyone really seemed to like.
You had one post on dangerous houseplants. What's the kernel of information for my listeners' benefit on that one?
I thought the most interesting thing I uncovered when I was researching that is that aloe is actually a plant that you don't want pets to eat, and we think of that as medicine. So I thought that was kind of important that
Is
people
that
should know that.
is that something in skin creams then, or where do you find aloe?
The plant itself, people
The
break
plant itself.
open the plant and apply the fluid from the plant to burns and that kind of thing. So you think, gosh, this is healthy. I'm going to put it on my dog, or I'm going to feed it to my animal.
Well, the listener has a question that I should have followed up on more rapidly, and that is why do dogs and maybe cats eat grass? What goes on in their digestive system that calls them to do that?
Well, I did a lot of research about grass and plant matter and all of that kind of stuff. And I learned some interesting facts about panda bears. Panda bears only eat one food. And that is kind of, people have said the species is going to die off because you have to have a varied diet. And someone proposed that their reward center, their pleasure reward center in their brains are actually stimulated by eating that food. So my theory on why dogs eat grass is because it gives them a reward. They think it's fun.
It's not an emetic or something to make the dog throw up.
No, it actually, some people said they might be attempting to deworm themselves, but the science behind that is actually not there. So, well,
I read that post, Catherine Prim, veterinarian, and you said that the research does not show that throwing up happens more than it happens 20% of the time after an animal eats grass.
Right.
A carnivore, we're talking about carnivores who are not herbivores that don't eat grass, but they do here, and it doesn't seem to be something that is intended to clear their stomachs.
Well, dogs are actually omnivores, so they can
eat
omnivores? Vegetables. Yes. So,
what vegetables do dogs eat? I was not aware of that.
Oh, it depends on what you give them, I guess. I've got one dog that's not a fruit and vegetable fan, and another dog that would eat any fruit or vegetable that I handed to her.
When you started Applebrook Animal Hospital in 1998, what kind of hours did you put in, and how long did it tell us about the work you did in the early stages, and how long it took you to become profitable, Catherine?
I worked a lot. I bought Applebrook. It was a home. It was a residential home, and so I gutted it and made it into an animal hospital. And I joke and tell everybody the only clients I had when I opened the doors were my parents, but now I have more than that. It was a lot of work. My whole family pitched in, stripping the walls and painting and making everything fresh and turning it into an animal hospital. But yes, the early hours were long. I answered the phone, I cleaned the kennels, I did all of it. So when did you have your first employee other than yourself? My best friend Shannon came and answered my phone for me. So, and my husband helped. He's actually in the newspaper photo of our open house, standing there with the rest of my staff. I mean, I don't remember. The first employees were pretty early, but there weren't very many of them. I was the jack of all trades. And how many animals come through on an average day, Catherine Prim? Oh gosh, I see one patient every 30 minutes. So you have a schedule. Yes. And sometimes it might take longer, often takes less, right? And so the customer comes with the dog, you do your inspection, and then they go, and then you have a little bit of downtime, I suppose, before the next client. It often takes longer. You've met me, I like to talk. So one of the comments, I guess positive comments that people say is that they didn't feel rushed. Well, I think there's timelessness can be really annoying if you have a schedule and you have let's say a subordinate or a partner, and that partner saying, let's get going here. But I think being timeless is a virtue. I think in the South it's a virtue, and people like it that you have more to say and that you're not rushing that customer out. So they like conversation, and they're affirmed by that, and they can throw at you the odd question that comes to mind, that would come to mind only after a prolonged chat with you, and then it comes, and then they're gratified that they thought of it in time and you hadn't rushed them out, and they can ask this detailed question, and so there's an advantage there. How is it that you make your customers successful? That is what every business person, every businesswoman is in business for, is to make her customers successful in whatever it is that they come to her for. Yes. How does that work? My patients, when my patients are healthy and doing well, that's my job. So that's what I do. So I want to arm my clients with the ability to make good choices. When is the time to call me in? When do they need help? I want them to feel free to contact me. I give all of my clients my personal email address so that they can ask me questions. I've gotten emails from people standing on the floor at a pet store saying, what pet food should I give? And, you know, I don't want people to email me about emergencies because I do go to sleep sometimes, but I certainly want to be available to them. I think that communication and the healthcare team aspect of things is what makes us different.
How can my listener, if he has a pet, how can he support local economy in what he buys? Are there, where are there local suppliers of pet gadgets, pet gewgaws, pet food? And so on. I know in your field as a veterinarian, it's all local economy. You don't have national competitors, do you?
Yes,
You
we
do?
have national competitors.
Well, say something about that.
There are corporations that have started to buy up small animal hospitals and sort of take them over. And I don't want to do that because it's so close to my heart. It's my childhood dream. I don't want to be just an employee of Applebrook Animal Hospital. I want to be the heart of it. So, but it's out there. Yes.
Has any corporate representative propositioned you, Catherine Prim, to buy from you and your husband Applebrook Animal Hospital?
I get emails a lot saying, would you be interested? And I just don't answer those.
Well, what would you do if you sold your business? What would you do? You're a young woman, you're a young mom. Where would you'd be just an employee, and then somehow you're not getting the profit anymore. Now you are a profitable business. You get not just your wages, but you get the profit. Isn't that exciting?
It is. And the best part is those are my clients. Those are my animals. Those are mine. They don't belong to a corporation. They belong to me, and they come to see me because they like me and they like what I've built. And that is a pride thing, maybe. I don't know. That's part of what's special.
Well, I think what you're pointing out to my listener is that if the listener is the owner, the clients are his. The listener's not serving somebody else's clients with whom he has no attachment. But if they're your clients, they're your personal clients, there is an attachment that touches on your livelihood. It touches, you might say, your very soul. And if you're just an employee of a foreign owner or somebody else maybe in town who runs the business, and you work for them, you don't have that same. You're not the same. It's not a steward relationship. Well, maybe it is a steward relationship, but you don't have the same kind of identification with the customer base. You tend to view them as customers and people connected with work. But if you're the owner, it's not just work anymore. It's really your whole life.
It's an emotional investment. I agree with that completely. I really care what happens to those animals and to those people on a personal basis. Sometimes when I lose a patient, it hits me, maybe more than it should, but I think that's valuable. I think that's part of it, is that I need to care. I really feel like the personal touch is why I'm successful.
Well, is there anything you can say about the affection people have for animals? It seems like we have, there seems to be a great, since there seem to be fewer children being had, there seems to be much more reliance on animals and pets among the American population. Can you say something about that? Is that a trend that you're noticing?
I think it's something I've always kind of noticed, but your dog's your best friend who doesn't judge you. You don't have to look cute. You don't have to smell good. You don't have to do anything. Maybe smelling bad would be a plus, but I love that. I mean, my dog's always happy to see me, and that's special.
Well, one of your blog posts, Catherine Prim, was on why do cats bite when they're being petted? What is that explanation? We have that at my house. We have 2 cats. What's the reason?
Gosh, I don't know if anybody really knows because you can't ask the cat, but I did some research on that, and I think it's just a cat thing. I think they investigated wildcats and said that those cats interact with their other family members in the same way, and so my assessment was that your cat just sees you like family.
You are. These are affectionate touches. They're not nips of anger or resentment.
Right. Right.
Well, what else does my listener need to hear, Catherine Prim? How can give us your website and tell my listener, even if he's not near Ottawa, how to get a hold of you?
Well, if you are near Ottawa, my animal hospital website is applebrookanimal.com. If you're not near Ottawa, but you still want to benefit from some of the things that I blog about or write about or educate about, I have a website called drprim.com, DRPRIMM. And of course, my book, Tennessee Tales, Pets and Your People, is available on Amazon and at our local Barnes & Noble as well. And I hope that it will give you the insight of kind of why I do what I do and give you a little piece of my passion.
And in a nutshell, what's in the book?
Stories, fun stories about the relationships that I have built with people and pets, or pets and their people.
Well, this is David Toulis. Our show is Nuganomics.com. We cover local economy and the free market. We've been talking with Catherine Prim. Catherine, thank you for joining my listener and me here at Nuganomics.com.
Thanks for having me.
Catherine Prim is a writer. Her book is Tennessee Tales, Pets and Their People, which we just mentioned, and she owns and runs Applebrook Animal Hospital in Ottawa, which opened in 1998 and became profitable within 4 or 5 years, you said?
At least, yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us here at Nuganomics.com. Make sure that if you need to buy a car, you check out AutoMax in the Harrison area, just across the way from Central High School. AutoMax has cars $2,000 to $3,000 less than any other used car dealership on account of the low overhead. A very small business, just like us here at Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. I've got some things I want you to hear. Hang on.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Right now, you can save half off at hotnewstalkradio.com. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click half off for exceptional deals on new and pre-owned unique quality items. For Hamilton County residents only. Save half off at Jet's Pizza, golf clubs, coffee, tea, a real sword, jewelry, and much more. It's half off. Go to half off at hotnewstalkradio.com right now, then click on half off to save big. Be sure to join us live Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays at 11 a.m. as we bring you lots of fantastic deals right here, AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. hotnewstalkradio.com and half off. Surf our site and ride the wave of savings. We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection, loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas, every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network. Coverage continues Sunday here at Live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
When my brother and I opened the first Jet's Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300 plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jet's.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducts. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
NASCAR, Laura Ingram, Dennis Miller, David Toulis, Coast to Coast AM, and CBS Radio News. Chattanooga's news, talk, and sports leader.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio. I'm Lillian Wu. Some places it was banned just hours ago now started issuing marriage licenses to gay couples. This after the High Court ruling making gay marriage legal across the country. The president calling it a step toward equality, while those who want his job are also speaking out.
Hillary Clinton tweeted that she's proud to celebrate a historic victory for marriage equality, while Republican candidates are disappointed in the ruling. In a statement, Jeb Bush said, guided by his faith, he believes in traditional marriage.
Fox Radio's Rachel Sutherland. The security level raised to its highest in the region of France where an American gas factory was attacked and a decapitated head found.
Yassine Salih, he is in custody. That is the main suspect. He is someone who had been on French police radar in 2006 and fell off radar in 2008.
Fox's Amy Kellogg, the suspect's employer, said to be the victim whose remains were found. Fox News, we report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
Well, it has been a much less distressing day for Hamilton County Clerk Bill Knowles than he thought it might be. He simply had to yield to buckle to say, it's not in my hands. The court has ruled. The court has decided. And I, in my office now, in good faith, without any fear of violating the perjury statute, I can, in good faith, say that, yes, Jim and Joe can marry, and that I'm no longer bound by my oath to the Constitution. That part which I agree has been voided, vacated, and rendered unenforceable by the federal opinion that came out this morning, Tanko versus Haslam. Also, the lead plaintiffs are Obergefell versus Hodges, that have overturned marriage, that have deconstructed marriage, a ruling, an opinion, shall we call it, an opinion that is against marriage. It is not for marriage. It is, and its redefinition, it is in fact against marriage, and amounts, the ruling coming in at 108 pages, amounts to a deconstruction in American law of marriage itself, which is had long been protected by states, not as well as the states could have, but generally protected by marriage. The family upon which or under which marriage lies, marriage is the basis of the family. That also taking a terrific blow in the federal judiciary that is acting outside the scope of its authority. The federal court in Washington has no authority to rule on marriage. In fact, just 2 years ago in the Windsor decision, which overturned the Defense of Marriage Act, the lead judge, Anthony Kennedy, said, well, states' rights, we have long protected states' rights, and marriage has been the exclusive provenance of the states. He said at the time, regulation of domestic relations is an area that has long been regarded as a virtually exclusive province of the states. And he also said the federal government, through our history, has deferred to state law policy decisions with respect to domestic relations. And so what has happened is that we have here at the end of the Republic a continuing centralization, a continuing consolidation, if you will, of the national impetus, the national theory. And now, as we are to understand, there's no diversity among the states in their own people's ideas of marriage, of the family. We, in fact, have a ruling, an opinion that will be given practically the effect of law, that of 5 lawyers wearing black cloaks and moving the landmark and saying that Jim Joe unions are equal to the marriage between you, my listener, and your wife. There's nothing that you have is exclusive. Nothing that you have is unique to you with your male parts, your male character, your male physique, and your wife with her female parts and her distinct female shape and character and purpose. People are interchangeable, right? Men and women are interchangeable. Marriage can be between two women. It can be between two men. It can be a throuple. You can have three. And no doubt there will be many other innovative and ingenious propositions as to what can constitute a marriage. And it is a form of a powerful word of deconstruction and even demolition. And that is what we are to understand is happening today. And Bill Knowles did not have a day of great trial as I had hoped. I had hoped that it would be for him a day of agonizing of the spirit and a day of deliberation in which he said, you know, I have taken an oath to uphold Tennessee law, the Tennessee Constitution, which in its amendment, the Tennessee Amendment, the Marriage Protection Amendment, has explicit language that says we defy anybody to tell us what to do here in Tennessee. In fact, it says any law or policy or judicial interpretation purporting to define marriage as anything other than the historical institutions and legal contract between one man and one woman is contrary to the public policy of the state and shall be void and unenforceable in Tennessee. But now what is void and unenforceable? Well, thanks to the agreement, complicity, and cooperation and compliance of this one county clerk, this provision itself favored by the vast majority of people just like you, my listener, this is rendered a nullity, a non-entity, just so much hieroglyphics there in the Tennessee Code annotated, which is the record of the law passed by either the people or their representatives in the state house or the state senate. The ruling rejects public debate and settles the score, and it declares a winner before, you might say, the cultural war over marriage is settled. And we're to be right in our apprehensions that that gay theory, which does not know a limit, right? It is fundamentally irrational. Gay theory, queer theory, it's called LGBT or lug butt theory, as I shorthand it, is not rational. It does not know when to stop. And because it doesn't know when to stop, it is inviting great hostility against its chief actors. There are a few of them here in Chattanooga, but there are many people of good intent who are very sympathetic still to gay theory. But I would like to venture that gay shares hit their peak last summer when there was a euphoria of court rulings. A euphoria caused by a series of court rulings for gay theory, basing their favor for gay life, gay marriage on the 14th Amendment and the you might say the equal opportunity clauses. But the debate is over. There is a loss. There's going to be a very strong encroachment, a kind of a mudslide, if you will, against religious liberty, and people will be finding occasions in law. They'll be trying now to pass a hate law at the federal level, maybe even at the state level, which creates a cause of action against people like you if you don't do exactly what the gays want, right? There will be a cause of action that will be ordinarily there would not be one, but any connection with government in any activity under government jurisdiction or government license or permission or certification now becomes a tool of the egalitarian equalists, if you will, the harsh-tongued and ferociously ideological gay activists. They're going to be coming after all kinds of institutions. The work is just beginning. Of course, it hasn't really started, but it'll start tomorrow. Well, it'll start Monday, okay? The celebrations and the wine flowing and the partying will last for several several days, an orgy of celebration with gay rights touted as the new era in human rights, new era in constitutional law. Justice Scalia, a Roman Catholic who holds to the natural law theory, laments the loss of the democratic system. He says, today's decree says that my ruler and the ruler of 320 million Americans coast to coast is a majority of the 9 lawyers on the Supreme Court. This practice, he says, of constitutional revision by an unelected committee of 9, always accompanied, as it is today, by extravagant praise of liberty, robs the people of the most important liberty they have asserted in the Declaration of Independence and won in the Revolution of 1776, the freedom to govern themselves. That is what has been denied to you, my listener. You cannot govern yourself on this. Our state and its people and their elected representatives cannot govern you either. Their government has been only a tyranny, only a form of bigotry. And we now here in Washington, we're going to correct it. You people in Chattanooga, you need to see what's coming. We've got good things in store for you. He goes on to say, until the courts put a stop to it, public debate over same-sex marriage displayed, he says, American democracy at its best. The electorates of 11 states, either directly or through their representatives, chose to expand the traditional definition of marriage. And of course, many, such as Tennessee, did not. And he points out that the 14th Amendment, which comes, it is an amendment that you may not know much about. It was enacted in 1868. And every state limited, at that time, every state limited marriage to one man and one woman. And no one doubted the constitutionality of doing so, right? That resolves these cases. In other words, the fact that marriage was in view at that time settles the question as to the use to which the court can put the 14th Amendment. When it comes to determining the meaning of a vague constitutional provision, he goes on to say, such as due process of law or equal protection of the laws, it is unquestionable that the people who ratified that provision did not understand it to prohibit a practice that remained both universal and uncontroversial in the years after ratification. We have no basis for striking down a practice, meaning regular marriage, that is not expressly prohibited by the 14th Amendment text. And that bears the endorsement of a long tradition of open, widespread, and unchallenged use dating back to the amendment's ratification. And the decision that came out of Washington, he says, lacks even a thin veneer of law. It is the equivalent of a judicial putsch. Now, a putsch is, of course, a coup. And that is, in fact, what happened. He complains about the mummeries and straining to be memorable passages of the opinion is a candid and startling assertion. Amid these mummeries is an assertion, and that is that no matter what it was the people ratified, the 14th Amendment protects those rights that the judiciary, in its reasoned judgment, thinks the 14th Amendment ought to protect it. He complains about the opinion's showy profundities. And I think the great loss to local economy, to Tennessee, is that this ruling, because it's, with a few exceptions, is viewed by all as a law, right? Carrying the force of law, obviating and destroying laws in states. It is undemocratic and anti-democratic. This is a naked judicial claim to legislative, indeed super legislative power. A claim fundamentally at odds with our system of government, a system of government that makes the people subordinate to a committee of 9 unelected lawyers, he says, does not deserve to be called a democracy. Now, conflict over gay marriages and gays per se is resolved now by a select and patrician, highly unrepresentative panel of 9. Is to violate a principle even more fundamental than no taxation without representation. And that is no social transformation without representation. In other words, who is it? Who are they, these 5 people, to transform society in all the states, which are we thought, independent states. And how is it that something that's 15 or 20 years old now becomes not just something we're going to debate about, but something we're going to impose, as it were, by a super interpretation? He says, these justices know that limiting marriage to one man and one woman is contrary to reason. They know that an institution as old as government itself and accepted by every nation in history until 15 years ago cannot possibly be supported by anything other than ignorance or bigotry. And they are willing to say that any citizen who does not agree with that, who adheres to what was until 15 years ago the unanimous judgment of all generations and all societies, stands against the Constitution. And there is, in this opinion, he says, a lot of poetry and inspirational pop philosophy. And the court now demands that these be part of the law. The stuff contained in today's opinion has to diminish this court's reputation for clear thinking and sober analysis. Justice Thomas, a Roman Catholic, also says that this opinion redefines freedom and liberty. Since well before 1787, liberty has been understood as freedom from government action, not entitlement to government benefits. And that's what's happened here, because the states usurped the common law. The states trampled on your rights to marry as a matter of right and created a marriage by permission regime. They have stolen from you, and now this usurpation against the common law is now being stolen from them. The states are losing, as we are to understand, losing their authority over marriage and to say what marriage is. They can't say, just as in their turn earlier, they took from you the common law right of marriage. Actual liberty, quoting Blackstone, is the following: it's the power of locomotion, of changing situation or removing one's person to whatsoever place one's own inclination may direct, without imprisonment or restraint, unless by a due course of law. Well, this is David Toulis, and our show is Nuganomics.com. We're covering local economy and the free market, and looking at the momentous decision today that says that there's freedom in government. The fact that government can do something and create a favor by creating marriage regimes. That there's freedom in having a government create a unanimous one-size-fits-all definition of marriage. The founding era of civil liberty as natural, the founding idea, Judge Thomas says, of civil liberty as natural liberty constrained by human law necessarily involved only those freedoms that existed outside of government. The understanding of freedom that has been overturned is that we no longer have freedom from somebody or some claim, not freedom from, but freedom to. And that is because, of course, the warfare and welfare state is the provider of all, a kind of messianic entity that saves men from their sins, as it were, or at least, if not that, it saves them from the consequence of their sins. The dissenters point out that whether we define liberty as locomotion or freedom from governmental action, more broadly, petitioners have in no way been deprived of it. In other words, had the dissenters prevailed and said, no, we uphold constitutional government and states' rights, there would have been no injury to Tanco in the Tanco versus Haslam case, or Obergefell in the main title of the case, Obergefell versus Hodges. There would have been no injury to the people who are complaining about the state's constitutions. They have been able to hold civil marriage ceremonies in states that recognize same-sex marriage and private religious ceremonies in all states. They have been able to travel freely around the country, making their homes where they please. Far from being incarcerated or physically restrained, petitioners have been left alone to order their lives as they see fit. But that's really not enough. The gay theory, queer theory, LGBT theory, as we call it, wants to have a reordering of society. It wants to have what Gramsci, the Italian Marxist, wanted: a slow march of socialism, of Marxism, of state-imposed egalitarian through the institutions of a country. We've been under Gramsci's theory in the United States for decades, and this is a major, not so quietly passing improvement in the favor of the modern welfare, the modern total state. Gays demand to have the state imprimatur, the state stamp of approval on their activities. They want the dishonor of their acts, the dishonor of buggery and sodomy, to be done away with, and they want these acts, these private acts, which otherwise are not prosecuted. They want these to be enshrined in law and to be made equal to you and your honorable wife. You and your honorable wife in marriage are no better than they. Remember, homosexuality is when a man takes his organ of generation and inserts it in the organ of excretion of another man and other delights, right? That's what that is. That is the sex of homosexuality. It is something that that Christianity condemns. Perhaps the most vigorous treatment of it is in St. Paul in the first chapter of Romans, a passage that that gays have probably heard quoted to them. And the idea there is that homosexuality is not just a thing that God judges, but it is the judgment itself. Where in the 24th verse, the Christian will tell you that God gave them up to uncleanness in the lusts of their hearts, to dishonor their bodies among themselves, who exchanged the truth of God for the lie, and worshiped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. And the people in the homosexual world who are involved in a sin, right? Christianity says that a homosexual act is a sinful act. They are caught up in a vile passion. They have exchanged the natural use for what is against nature. That's why it's called a crime against nature in common law. And these men have left the natural use of women, Paul goes on to say, and burned in their lust for one another. It is a judgment, and in fact, the fact that a high court has ruled in favor of gays, has opined in favor of gays, is no doubt a great grief, and it will be a cause for distress until past the end of the country. The country is it's at the end of its 250 years, if we believe Sir John Glubb's counting of the durability of empires that he has studied. It is 250 years. We are just before the last couple years of the United States, the American Empire, if you will. And we can hope for the best as it passes, and we need to find out how we can survive the disturbances. And this is certainly a tremendous disturbance. It is a tremendous sell signal. Gay shares are, they peaked last summer, and I think that starting, the gay share value will decline sharply. I think if gays had lost this case, there would have been a slow decline in gay shares, but now that they have won, their teeth are bared, and the shares will decline sharply, especially as innocent people are hounded and harassed, and we can count on that. It is certain that there's going to be much more hatred, resentment, anger, bitterness, and politics. The court has usurped the people's say in this, and they're now declaring a vile thing to be true, and an evil to be a good thing, a right, in fact, a right that the founders are willing to have put in the Constitution. Now, like I say, there are many rights. There are so many rights that the Constitution can't possibly name them all, and there are rights unenumerated and protected by the 10th Amendment. However, sodomy can't be counted as that, and neither the marriage of Jim and Joe. That cannot be a right. And I may not recognize it, and I'm sure that you may be bold enough to join me in not recognizing that as a fact. Though in law, we are to understand it has happened. Why has this happened? Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that another day. My name is David Toulis, and our show is Nuganomics.com. You are the victim of an opinion masquerading as law and understood by all to be law. The neutron bomb theory of law says that this opinion, which has no enforcement mechanism whatsoever except our faith in those people, in the good people, it cannot be enforced unless we believe that it has to be enforced. If we think it has to be enforced, well, then we will enforce it upon ourselves, every one of us. But do we continue to give assent and consent to the good people? and their regime. Is there something we can do differently? Is there some solution to this crisis? There is a solution, but it's not in the national sector. It's not in law. It's not in litigation. And that is our theory here at Nuganomics.com. There are solutions to these problems that are desperate problems that are going to cause tremendous agony, tremendous dislocation, confusion for generations of American people who will now take this opinion as a law, and they'll structure all their thoughts, all their understanding about good and evil in terms of this great declaration, this act of war against the local family, against marriage, and against fidelity. Well, it is a grief and it is a judgment, but it's been caused by important weaknesses within Christianity that made Christianity a private thing, not a public thing. Well, this is David Toulis. I do thank you for giving me a couple of minutes of your time. Now, I've got some things I want you to hear. Hang on.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Are you calling me Yeller? Them